Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Box Office Talk. This is the show where I break down what happened at the box office, see if my predictions for the top 5 are correct, then make predictions for next week's top 5. So let's get right on into it. Last week I predicted that number 1 would be a Minecraft movie, number 2 would be The King of Kings, number 3 would be Drop, number 4 would be The Amateur, and number 5 would be Warfare. And I got 2 out of 5 of my predictions right for this weekend. Unfortunately, I kind of figured, there are too many wild cards as far as the new releases and no clear winner of those ones either. I got the first 2 right, and then it just started to go downhill once we got to number 3. 2 of you did get your predictions right for this weekend, so congratulations on getting that all correct. Let's move on into the overall top 10. What happened there? Number 1 was once again the Minecraft movie. I don't think anyone's too surprised by that. I think a lot of eyes were mostly going to be on how well it held over, because we've seen a lot of times where a movie, even if it opens really popularly, it can drop off drastically if there's not enough word of mouth or, hype surrounding its release. But in this case, it had about a pretty even drop-off of about 50%. It made $80 million this weekend for the domestic weekend, adding to a domestic total of $280 million worldwide. They now have a grand total of $550 million. That is a little over $500 million. Believe it or not, that is pretty good for any big-budget movie, but especially in this case, the budget only being $150 million. They are only about $50 million away from quadrupling that already. So yeah, they are obviously on a hell of a roll. Even with all of the talk of there's these rowdy screenings and all these people go in and only participate in a meme for internet clout, essentially just to film themselves kind of destroying the theater. Either way, it doesn't seem like it's deterred that many people from giving it a shot. So there's that. I did film a review earlier today. I'm going to edit it this week and hopefully edit it into something cohesive, something that makes sense. So we'll have a video out soon for that one. Overall, though, as far as video game movies, it outgrossed Sonic 2's domestic run by $90 million and Sonic 3 by $44. It is currently the second highest grossing domestic video game release of all time, behind the Super Mario movie right now by $294 million. So still quite a ways to go, but I mean, if it's able to have decent enough holds as it goes on, like it did this weekend, I mean, we might be seeing a new video game champ right here. As far as the year 2025, we kind of talked about last weekend, it did outgross Captain America Brave New World domestically by $81 million, so it is officially domestically the highest grossing film of the year. Minecraft, the film to beat. Who'da thunk? Worldwide, for video game films, it outgrossed Sonic 3 by $60 million, and right now it is sitting behind the Mario movie by $809 million, so same predicament domestically and worldwide. It is the second highest grossing video game film for both of those lists, and both of them kind of have a bit of a, bit more of a steeper climb to go. It's just all about maintaining that momentum at this point, so we'll see if this movie's able to do that. For the year 2025, it outgrossed Captain America Here by $137 million, and Tang Tan 1900 by $109 million. Right now it is the second highest grossing film of the year worldwide, and you might be like, oh well, what other chump movie is in the way? How many more millions does it need to make? Actually, it needs 1.428 billion to get to Naja 2, which we talked about a little bit a couple weeks ago. This is broken already so many records, one of the highest grossing films ever, highest grossing animated film ever worldwide. It's kind of looking like, Minecraft, for all the great accomplishments so far, it probably won't get this. But hey, you know what I mean? You can't win them all, Jack Black. Let's move on to number 2, which is The King of Kings. I figured, I checked the preview the theater kind of thing on Fandango to see how seats were selling, and they were selling. It got an A+ on Cinema Score. Not that that means anything, because Cinema Score is the thing where only the people that have seen the movie that have the app or their question afterwards, it's all reported on, who actually goes into the theater to see it among the casual audiences. So obviously the only people that will want to see this are people that were probably already going to like it to begin with. So yeah, A+. It made $19 million this weekend. There's no worldwide total, and I don't have a budget listed. I'm not going to try to assume what the exact number is. I am going to assume, though, it probably is going to be on the lower end. Not that the animation looks abysmal, it just doesn't look as good or polished as some other higher budgeted ones. So I'm going to assume it's a little bit on the lower end. Either way, this is the second highest opening weekend for Angel Studios, right behind Sound of Freedom, obviously, way higher than everything else that they've been doing lately. It already outgrossed Bonhoeffer by 7 million, and it just squeaked by Cabrini by a couple 100,000. So it's 1 million away from Homestead, and then it is the second highest grossing film ever for Angel Studios, once again behind Sound of Freedom. I don't think it'll have the same momentum that Sound of Freedom did back then, but it's an Angel Studios film, religious film, kind of geared towards a family audience this time, so they were bound to get some kind of audience. So yeah, I have nothing else I want to add or want to talk about. Let's move on to number 3, which is The Amateur. Yeah, I kind of figured, this one was probably not going to do very well. The budget is 60 million, so I was like, yeah, this just kind of has disaster written all over. Maybe disaster is the wrong word, but just like not profitable. I don't know how the movie is yet. I don't even really know what like the critical consensus is. I haven't checked Rotten Tomatoes, but the fact that it's not like I'm hearing from other people like immediately when I go online or anything like, oh, what was really good is The Amateur. You really guys, like sometimes when something's really good and breaking through the mold, I'll see something where someone is like releasing like this urgent-esque kind of tweet or post or something saying like, no, seriously guys, go see this. You don't want to miss it. I didn't see that for this, you know what I mean? So it opened at 15 million domestically. Worldwide, it is sitting at 32. So yeah, with a 60 million budget, not particularly great. Oh well. I'll see it at some point, and maybe I'll change my mind when we come to the next box office talk, or maybe we won't. At number 4, we have Warfare, making 8.3 million for its domestic weekend. The production budget of this movie is 20 million, so they have about 32-ish million before they get to our show standards of a success, the doubling point. I don't know if this will have the same momentum. It's weird because I feel like usually when it comes to like a Warfare, or at least, a couple years ago, I guess I'm thinking back to like American Sniper, these would do like really well. I think it could be a thing of like times have kind of changed, audience expectations of them have kind of changed, and also maybe the marketing wasn't as present for this one. I feel like I didn't really see this one marketed as much, except for like YouTube. Either way, though, for Alex Garland also, after having kind of like a surprise hit with Civil War last year, not that that one was like, the greatest record breaker of all time or anything, it was just kind of surprising how well it ended up doing. Genuinely, it was like, oh, Civil War's really taken off and getting the audiences into the theater, that's okay, a little unexpected. This one kind of having a bit of a drop-off, despite the fact that I'm pretty sure they promoted the fact that, director of Civil War is doing this one. Yeah, not particularly great. The opening weekend was 8 million over Ex Machina, though, 5 million over Men, but 3 million below Annihilation and 17 million below Civil War. Right now, it did outgross the entire run of Men, but it needs 17 million until it gets to Ex Machina. So, yeah, gonna be a little bit on the lower end for Alex Garland unless this one really starts to pick up. I'm not really sure, though, because I think we've just entered a spring break era for some students, maybe all students. I don't know how fucking school schedules work anymore. I'm out of school. And also I don't care. But we could be seeing more like families going out there, like with younger kids, like we got to go see Minecraft now, or maybe now's the time we see Snow White. I don't know how much more room there is for Warfare to really gain that much traction, especially opening this low. So anyways, number 5 was Drop, making 7.5 million on a much more reasonable budget for them with their opening of 11 million. Worldwide, it only bumps up to 10.01, but that's about 12 million more they need to get. I feel like, it has a decent enough kind of word of mouth as far as like the audience that will see this. I feel like they'll probably cross over that doubling point, at least by a little bit. Probably not as much money as they would have wanted. And I'm kind of surprised also that it didn't open a little higher, because I thought like, it's a thriller one, and I feel like a thriller usually gets people's attention, and I feel like the marketing for this, I've seen this trailer everywhere. You know what I mean? Every movie I see, I usually get this one in front of it. But I guess not. Maybe that worked against it. The fact that people saw that trailer so much, they were like, fuck that movie. Either way, I feel like they still have a chance to at least be, a more like moderate success here. For Chris Landon, the opening weekend was 6 million over Scout's Guide and 4 million over Freaky, but that was a COVID release, so blah, blah, blah. 2 million below Happy Death Day to You, 11 million below Paranormal Activity, the marked ones, and 19 million below the original Happy Death Day. So kind of like the Alex Garland one, not one of their highest, but not the lowest. Maybe it could have done a little better. I think just budget wise, because I guess it doesn't help also that Warfare didn't have a worldwide, total bringing it up. It just kind of has the domestic one. Drop at the very least got to the double digits with the combined domestic and worldwide, and the budget is 9 million lower than Warfare. So that's the difference. Domestically for Chris Landon, it did outgross Scout's Guide by 4 million. It's 2 million behind Freaky right now. Worldwide, it is 5 million away from Scout's Guide. So a little bit ways to go. I do hope this one does work out, because I liked both this and Warfare, so I hope Warfare picks up some traction too, just because it would be cool to see that one work out in the end. But also this one was a really fun thriller, and yeah, I am kind of surprised that a thriller like this, because I honestly really did think this one could have gotten a little higher up, but I guess maybe not too many people are into like a thriller like this right now, at least. Or maybe it's that thing of like, we got so many on streaming, maybe some people are like, yeah, I'll wait for it, you know what I mean? Maybe it's something like that, I don't know. Anyways, number 6 is The Chosen Last Supper Part 3, the first time one of these ones these past couple weeks didn't crack the top 5. In fact, I forego looking at every single Chosen theatrical release. I'm just comparing the Last Supper ones right now. This one opening to 5.8 million. That means the opening was not only 6 million below part 1, but also just 1 million shy of part 2. So it definitely seems like the more that these go on in like a, period of time, especially when they're so bunched up like this, the more that their own audience also loses interest. They're like, we'll see one of them, no way we're seeing the rest. I guess is what happens. It needs 5 million until it gets to part 2. More on that later, actually. Number 7 is A Working Man, making 3.06 million, adding to a domestic total of 33 million. Coincidentally, that places it 33 million away from The Beekeeper's domestic run. Worldwide, it is bumped up to 59 million, so about 21 million away from crossing over the initial production budget of 40 million. Hopefully for David Ayer and Jason Statham's sake, they get there. Right now, that places it 93 million away from The Beekeeper's worldwide run. So, still trucking along, getting some cash here and there. Not really much more to report, similar to number 8, which was Snow White. Although I feel like the bump in the worldwide total was a little bit more significant. It's kind of hard to tell, though, because it's not like it puts it in the green or anything. Anyways, it made 2.8 million domestically, adding to a domestic total of 81 million. So for Disney remakes, it is 5 million away from Cruella, and it's 122 million away for Mark Webb from Amazing Spider-Man 2. But worldwide, I feel like last weekend it was at like 150 million or so. Or maybe I'm just distracted by the fact that the domestic number, is just getting smaller and smaller. But worldwide, it was able to bump up from at least 150 million last weekend to 181. So at least there's that, you know what I mean? For Disney remakes worldwide, Cruella, it needs 44 million until it gets there. And then for Mark Webb, worldwide runs, it needs 528 million until Amazing Spider-Man 2. So it maybe it just feels like it had a bit more of a bump up, but it's not like it helped it in any way, shape, or form. Closer to 200 million, but will it even cross that point? I don't know. Genuinely, I don't. Not that helps it either. Anyways, number 9 was The Woman in the Yard, making 2.1 million, adding to a domestic total of 20 million. So for Wame Colette Sarah, it places it 6 million away from Run All Night, but it is 4 million shy of getting to its doubling point for its initial production. But that does place it 4 million away from getting to its doubling point for its initial production budget of 12 million. So, hopefully some small worldwide numbers can bump it up and get it over there, kind of similar to Drop, I guess. Both of these are Blumhouse, which is kind of interesting, that they're kind of, even though they're budgeted pretty well, and I feel like they were marketed pretty solidly, it just seems like these ones in particular are not, kind of crossing the aisle of getting more people in, it would seem. I don't know exactly what the direct cause of that is, other than streaming conditioning for certain thrillers or horror movies, or in the case of Drop, maybe some people saw the trailer too many times. I don't know. Either way though, they'll get close. they'll make some kind of money, hopefully. And then finally, closing out the video, number 10, The Chosen Last Supper Part 2. Part 1 is gone, but Part 2 is still hanging around, only making $931,000, adding to a domestic total of 10.9. So we already talked about the difference between this and Part 3. In order to get to Part 1's domestic run, it needs 9 million still. Not gonna get there. And it's about to tip out of the top 10, so doesn't matter. Why'd I even bring this stat up? Part of the video, I don't give a shit. Anyways, now it's time for the fun part, the predictions for next week's top 5, and I do think this will be fun, because I'm about to go wild here, I think. I don't know what the consensus is on the predictions for next weekend, because we know Minecraft held over pretty well this weekend, all things considered, it held over pretty well. But I really think, I hope, and I genuinely believe number one could be Sinners. Like, people were already excited about it before. You promote the fact that it's the director of Black Panther and Michael B. Jordan's a big enough star. But the fact that it just seems like a lot of people that have seen it already, the critics have really been loving this movie. And it's a big, like, horror, like a big horror movie, kind of like event almost, you know? I just think this could really, rake in some cash. I think this one could really bring it on, especially when it releases to the general public. And I'm going to assume, just based off of critic reactions, that the word of mouth is going to be really positive. That could just pick up. So I'm going to predict that Sinners could get into number one, and then maybe close behind number two, a Minecraft movie. Then number three, The King of Kings. Number four, The Amateur. And number five, Warfare. But what are your predictions for next week's top five? Leave them in the comments below. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.